Bittikaya, yesterday I proclaimed the fairness and the justice of the trial of Derek Chauvin and how George Floyd has achieved justice. In fact, beyond that, I can easily say, I am saying that black people, black Americans as a whole, have achieved justice, because so often court cases have been skewed from the gate. And whereas it is indisputable that America has a very bigoted history, and that straight white men were the way to go, and then after that straight white women, but it was always heterosexual whites. So if you if you varied from that very simple equation, then there was a good chance that justice, the wheels of justice, would turn against you. Much has changed in just the years that I have been on this earth, 56 and a half years. But I have long been of the opinion that, I have long been of the observation that the true divide, not only in America, but throughout the world, is economic. If you're poor, oh my gosh, you have things, you have the deck just stacked against you. If you're poor, you're looked down upon. If you're poor, you're often seen as degenerate and criminal. And many communities of color are poor. So many whites were looked down upon, have looked down upon those communities of color because of their poverty. If you eliminate the poverty, then you get closer to achieving the equality of the heart, equality of the soul, perceived. Whether or not you're poor or middle class or rich or anything in between, you have dignity. But it is hardest for humanity to give dignity to the poor. This is what I'm saying. And the greatest thing about this current social justice movement is we are willing to see the dignity of every living soul, despite economic circumstances, despite skin color, of course. I really think skin color was pretty much set aside and dismissed as a viable distinction between men and women decades ago. I say by the 90s. It is the economic circumstances that drives us to play unfairly. And the social justice movement has brought to the forefront. Unfortunately, the social justice movement, the worst thing about it is that it's less about justice. It's a social retribution movement. It's not social justice. It's retribution. It has some really good ideas, but so much of it has turned into garbage. And because of that, this quote-unquote social justice movement has America moving backwards. Instead of looking for retribution, instead of trying to balance the scales by tipping the scales in the other direction, we are in danger of losing all that is intrinsic about being American, being human, being God's children. So whereas George Floyd got justice, Derek Chauvin got justice, so many of us aren't even pointed in the right direction toward achieving justice for all. Justice for all does not involve retribution. Unless you actually commit a crime, if you actually assault someone, if you actually come after somebody with a knife or a gun, there needs not to be retribution. There needs to be dialogue. There needs to be forgiveness. There needs to be understanding. And there needs to be true brotherhood and sisterhood. Personhood, moving together, moving ever forward. Peace. 4 fingers.